Machiavelli and Nietzsche saw through the lie. Two minds so dangerous that their ideas were banned, burned, and buried by every institution that profits from your obedience. Machiavelli gave you the blade and the prince. Nietzsche gave you the reason to swing it in beyond good and evil. And right now you're living proof that their warnings were ignored, because you're being controlled, not by a person, by two invisible systems. The first is external, the hierarchy above you at work, in society, in every room you walk into. Someone is positioning themselves above you, and you're letting them. The second system is internal, the guilt you feel for wanting more, the shame that crawls up your spine when you pursue dominance, the quiet voice that says wanting power makes you a bad person. That voice was put there on purpose. Machiavelli understood the external cage. Nietzsche understood the internal one through his concepts of eternal recurrence and will to power. Most men are trapped in both and don't even know it. These two minds built blueprints for dominance that the world's been trying to suppress for centuries. And understanding the difference between them is the difference between predator and prey. So pay attention, because what you're about to hear will either set you free or make you deeply uncomfortable. Either way, you'll never see the world the same again. Phase 1. The external game. Machiavelli's Mask and Blade. Niccolò Machiavelli didn't write The Prince for good men. He wrote for effective ones. And the first thing Machiavelli understood is something most people spend their entire lives pretending isn't true. Power isn't a virtue, it's a physical fact. The prince's authority doesn't flow from God, doesn't flow from elections, doesn't flow from being a decent human being. It flows from his capacity to compel obedience through arms and cunning, what Machiavelli called virtue. This is not moral virtue. Virtue is the prince's ability to adapt to fortuna, to fortune's wheel, through strength and intelligence combined. Machiavelli collapsed the entire illusion of legitimacy into a single brutal observation. Whoever has power has the right to command. There's no moral basis to judge the difference between legitimate and illegitimate power. There's only power, and the absence of it, and you're sitting in the absence. This is where most people flinch. They want to believe the system is fair, that if they work hard and play by the rules, they'll be rewarded. Machiavelli would look at you and laugh, because he understood what you refused to accept. Morality is a costume, not a constraint. He said it plainly in The Prince. It's unnecessary for a prince to have all the good qualities, but it's very necessary to appear to have them. Appear merciful, appear faithful, appear religious. But be ready to act against all of it the moment necessity demands, because the masses judge by appearances. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are. And those few who do will never challenge the opinion of the many. This is Machiavellianism in its purest form. The dark psychology principle that modern researchers call part of the dark triad. This is the fox and the lion. You must be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. Deception to avoid what destroys you, force to crush what opposes you. And the man who tries to be only one will be devoured by the other. Machiavelli didn't invent this, he observed it. Imagine the silence of the Cesena town square at dawn, a wooden block, a bloody axe, and the body of Ramiro de Orco, the man who did the prince's dirty work, sliced clean in half. Next to him, the bloody knife, laid out for the entire city to see. Cesare Borgia had hired this man to pacify the region through cruelty. And when the land was subdued, Borgia didn't just kill his own enforcer, he staged a masterpiece of terror. He gave the people a villain to hate and a savior to fear in the same breath. The populace was left, in Machiavelli's own words, satisfied and stupefied. That's the cold geometry of the Machiavellian mind. It doesn't ask, is this right? It asks, does this work? This is virtue in action, the prince's ability to master both fortune and human nature. Now apply this to your life. The professional hierarchies you navigate every day don't reward authentic kindness. They reward strategic civility. The man who gets promoted isn't the most honest, he's the most useful, while appearing the most trustworthy. The man who builds alliances isn't the most moral, he's the most perceptive about what others need to believe about him. This is not cynicism, it's chemistry. Accept the reaction, or be consumed by it. The choice is yours. But the clock is ticking. But here's where Machiavelli falls short. He gives you every weapon to dominate the board. He teaches you the mask, the blade, when to strike and when to smile. But he never once asks the deeper question. What if the real cage isn't the hierarchy around you? What if the real cage is inside your own mind? Phase 2. The internal game. Nietzsche's will to power. Friedrich Nietzsche looked at the same world Machiavelli dissected and saw something far more terrifying. The external game, the politics, the hierarchies, the manipulation, all of it is a symptom. The disease is deeper. It's in your soul. Because Nietzsche understood that power isn't a tool you pick up, it's the fundamental drive of everything alive. Wherever I found a living thing, Nietzsche wrote, there found I will to power. Every organism strives to grow, to spread, to seize, to become predominant. This is not ambition. This is biology. Life simply is will to power, combined with eternal recurrence. The idea that you must live every moment as if you'd repeat it forever. Nietzsche's philosophy demands you embrace your power without apology. And you've been taught to suppress yours. Here's the diagnosis that'll shake you. Nietzsche argued in On the Genealogy of Morality, the Judeo-Christian morality, the entire framework of humility, guilt, pity, and equality, isn't divine truth. It's a weapon invented by the weak to shackle the strong. He called it the slave revolt in morality. Originally, the masters, the aristocrats, the conquerors, they defined what was good. Strength was good, pride was good, nobility was good, and weakness was simply bad. But the powerless resented this. They couldn't defeat the strong with force, so they defeated them with ideas. They flipped the script. Meekness became virtue, ambition became sin, humility became holy. And pride, the natural state of a powerful man, became the deadliest vice. Think about what that means. Every time you feel guilt for wanting dominance, that isn't your conscience. That's a program installed by people who benefit from your restraint. Every time you apologize for your ambition, you're obeying a moral code that was designed, engineered specifically to keep you from rising. Watch how the people around you use their own incompetence as a weapon. They don't demand you play better. They demand you feel guilty for winning. They use their fragility to force you to slow down. That's not kindness. That's a Nietzschean trap designed to drain your momentum while they rest on your back. And you've been carrying them your entire life without knowing they climbed on voluntarily. Nietzsche's answer is the Übermensch, the individual who creates his own values beyond good and evil, the man who no longer asks the herd for permission to be strong. He looked at history and saw this type emerge again and again. Caesar, Napoleon, the Renaissance aristocrats who built empires and art and philosophy without ever apologizing for their strength. Nietzsche called the Renaissance a transvaluation of Christian values, a glorious return to the noble spirit. He even said that Cesare Borgia as Pope would have been the triumph he longed for, because it would have swept away the morality of the meek forever. Your ambition isn't a character flaw, it's your life force asserting itself through will to power and eternal recurrence. The guilt you carry for wanting more, for being competitive, for refusing to settle, that guilt isn't yours. It was planted. And Nietzsche is the man who hands you the shovel to dig it out. But here's Nietzsche's blind spot. Internal sovereignty without external strategy is isolation. You can free your mind completely, reject every cage, every moral chain, become the most sovereign thinker alive, and still get eaten by someone with a sharper Machiavellian blade. A free soul in a Machiavellian world still needs armor. Phase 3. The synthesis. Sovereign strategy. This is where it gets dangerous, because most men make one of two mistakes. They either become Machiavellian sociopaths, all tactics, no internal code. They win the game but lose themselves. They climb the ladder and find nothing at the top, because they never built anything inside worth protecting. Or they become Nietzschean hermits. All philosophy, no execution. They see through the lies but can't navigate the liars. They have the mind of a sovereign and the influence of a ghost. The architecture of true dominance requires both. Machiavelli teaches you to control the board through virtù and understanding of fortuna. Nietzsche teaches you to stop caring what the pieces think of you through will to power and eternal recurrence. And the synthesis is this, the protocol of the ghost. You never explain your ambition, never defend your values. To the world, you're a team player, a reliable asset, a polite neighbor. You wear the mask of the common man so perfectly that no one thinks to look behind it. While they're busy judging your mask, you're busy building an empire they won't see until it's too late to stop. External conformity isn't weakness if it buys you the space to build internal sovereignty. The most effective mask is a mirror. When you speak to the herd, use their language, reflect their values back to them so perfectly that they see themselves in you. While they're busy admiring their own reflection, you're free to move behind the current. You don't lie to them. You simply let them lie to themselves. And privately, you reject their values entirely. Not out of hatred, but out of clarity. Because the masses will always resent your strength. That's their nature. So you give them what they need to see. while you sharpen the blade they'll never know about. This is not hypocrisy. This is architecture. Nietzsche himself understood that deep individuals naturally wear masks. Everything profound loves a mask, he wrote. The profound man doesn't reveal himself to the shallow. He speaks in parables, moves in silence. And those who have eyes to see will recognize what the crowd cannot. Look at the figures both Machiavelli and Nietzsche admired. Cesare Borgia, who Machiavelli held up as the ideal prince in The Prince, the same Borgia that Nietzsche praised for his unapologetic vitality. Napoleon, who Nietzsche called the synthesis of man and overman, a force of nature who bent the entire continent to his will, not because he asked permission, but because he had both the strategy and the spirit to impose his vision. These weren't men who chose one game. They mastered both. Ruthless in strategy, sovereign in spirit, masked to the world, unleashed within themselves. They embodied both Machiavellian virtù and Nietzschean will to power. The final insight is this: morality is a cage, force is a tool, and your will is the only law that matters. Not will as impulse, not will as tantrums. Will as the disciplined, directed, relentless assertion of your life force against a world that rewards strength and punishes the man who apologizes for having it. You're not here to be loved by the herd. You're here to build something the herd can't touch. This is eternal recurrence in practice living, each moment, with the intensity of someone who chooses to repeat it forever. This is the architecture of dominance. The question is whether you have the stomach to build it. You now understand the two games. The external game, Machiavellian control through virtù and mastery of fortuna. Read the room, wear the mask. Position yourself where force and cunning intersect. The internal game, Nietzschean sovereignty through will to power and eternal recurrence. Kill the guilt, reject the programming. Create your own values and stop asking the herd for permission to be powerful. Most people will spend their entire lives as prey. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they refuse to see the mechanics that govern every hierarchy they inhabit. You are not most people. You made it to the end. You listened. Now you have a choice. If you want the full blueprint, the weapons they hide from the masses and the strategies that separate the architect from the audience, then you need to be here for what comes next. Subscribe and turn on notifications. This is where we dismantle the lies and build the architecture of dominance, one protocol at a time. The world is a zero-sum game. You are either the architect of your own life, or you are the brick in someone else's. Choose wisely, because the clock is ticking, and the herd is already looking for its next meal.